There was complete stillness in the courtroom as soon as the sentence was delivered. The individual who once enthralled millions of viewers with her defiant personality and distinctive manner on American Pickers caused her to collapse. Her hands were shaking and her eyes were distracted, the piercing smile had vanished. The assured posture was gone, leaving just a human being in front of the camera. Faced with the final cost of a secret that had motivated the woman who was once praised as the creative spirit of, she cried that day because American reality TV had fallen into this pit. Of sincere regret or regret for an unfulfilled plan, Danielle Colby, the renegade idol of American Pickers, rose from obscurity to fame. Did not come from the television industry, nor was she used to the ubiquitous glare of studio lights. Was up in the Midwestern metropolis of Davenport, Iowa, where nobody anticipated create a reality TV star with a flair for burlesque and punk from a young age. Instead of conforming, Danielle showed a spirit of rebellion. Pursuing an academic career, she immersed herself in street performance, lived in autonomous artistic communities, and quickly became a well-known burlesque dancer in the Midwest, with tattoos all over her body, a cool look, and she attracted attention wherever she went with her demeanor, which was a mix of classic and defiant. Emerged, whether at a flea market stand or on a dance floor, Colby has said that burlesque was more than just a show to her, it was a way of self-liberation. She participated in performances and started the troupe Burlesque Lustake. People who knew her back then concur, spanning locales from Chicago to New Orleans. Danielle had a magnetic personality that was half challenge and half allure, but her life changed in 2004 when she got back in touch with an old acquaintance. Mike Wolf, who was in charge of overseeing ancient archaeology at the time, asked Danielle to work as his office manager. At first, her responsibilities were simple schedule management, paperwork organization, and provision logistical assistance. However, in 2010, all was altered with the introduction of American Pickers. Initially, producers only paid attention to Wolf and Frank Fritz, two men searching for hidden treasures across America. Danielle made a fleeting appearance in each episode to set the scene, make phone calls, and provide background. However, it was her genuineness, keen understanding, and uniqueness that fascinated audiences. In a society where collecting uncles rule, Danielle shone like an outstanding piece that was unblended, fearless of criticism, and resolutely herself. Her screen time gradually grew, and audiences stopped seeing the secretary from Iowa, but instead a strong-willed woman who evaluated products, haggled over costs, and facilitated the efficient operation of American Pickers. Colby was described by numerous observers as the unspoken spirit of the show. If Mike supplied the beat and Frank represented, Danielle's rustic appeal was the glue that held the creativity together. She did more than attract TV viewers with her touch of wildness and lively energy. Her personal popularity grew, and her social media accounts accumulated hundreds with thousands of fans. She started her own fashion brand, creating vintage and punk rock-inspired apparel, held concerts with a communal focus, and become a symbol of feminism in a historically male-dominated antique world. But Danielle's very notoriety put her in a vulnerable situation. The more well-known she got, the more she was caught between Mike and Frank, two show pillars with diametrically opposed temperaments and visions. The more often she was on film, the more essential she became, and the more closely every move was examined. Colby's dependence on her personal brand increased as it expanded. The audience expects her to have a powerful, genuine, and distinctive appearance, yet beneath there is no denying that Danielle had a good understanding of reality TV techniques. She was aware of when to speak and when to be quiet. She was calculating when to smile and when to hold back to create a stage impression. Clever, but specifically because of that, in the view of people who are solely interested in results. When a scandal arose, Danielle could easily become the perfect suspect. Particularly after a good friend, Frank Fritz, passed away too soon. Leaving left journal notes that negatively portrayed Danielle started out as an unseen character behind reality TV, but through her intelligence and personality made her the center of attention. A lady who went from playing a supporting role to becoming an icon, yet as television history has demonstrated that the cost of fame can be a sudden and unexpected decline. American Pickers backstage conflicts. The reason for American Pickers' success was from its unique antiques as well as from the interaction between its three key players: Frank Fritz, who is grounded and shrewd, Mike Wolfe and friendly, Danielle Colby, brash and witty, but behind the studio nothing had the same harmony as the well-executed image that conveyed the stress. It was well known in production circles that Mike and Frank had a falling out over profit sharing for the show and, more controversially, Danielle's role of former History Channel editor from 2016 to 2019 disclosed that in many Mike voiced his displeasure with Danielle's on-screen appearance at internal meetings. Significance because of the editor's punk attitude, he thought the performance was off-key. Said that what nobody anticipated was that Mike and Danielle's intimacy was what finally drove Frank, who had been Mike's partner since the company's founding, was the wedge. To feel excluded, they are no longer the friends they were. Mike and Frank frequently argued about company and item valuations at filming locations. Tactics. Danielle, who at first sought to maintain her neutrality, was progressively drawn. Crew members explain arguments that developed as they entered the tumult of war. Beyond an appraisal of antiquity into an implicit power struggle between the three. Frank officially left the show at the end of 2019 due to health concerns. Reasons, but industry insiders knew that the breakup was far from friendly. "I no longer feel trusted," Frank wrote in an Antique Monthly interview. "Things are taking place behind my back." Internal information was soon revealed. When emails started coming in, Frank thought Danielle had completely sided with Mike, renouncing her neutral position. Several letters revealed Danielle providing Mike with direct updates on off-show activity and scheduling partner. Suspicions increased after the three of them made decisions together in the past. In one conversation, Danielle and Mike's private texts were made public. "Frank is losing control if he returns to the show. Everything," Danielle wrote, "will disintegrate." This communication surfaced weeks prior to Frank's formal withdrawal. Despite Danielle's assertion that it was a brief outburst, the situation worsened, with considerably more significant consequences. Following his basing, Frank wrote in his personal blog, "I no longer trust Danielle. She constantly smiles, but I feel that I'm being watched, and I know they're planning to get rid of me." Behavioral. These entries show a great deal of psychological stress and a widespread feeling of treachery. A former factory worker remembered that Frank used to quickly left the scene after observing Mike and Danielle having a private conversation in a car. He simply remarked, "I know they're hiding something," and left. Danielle, for her part, remained silent throughout, the assistant stated. Making a single declaration, "I have always thought of Frank's family in case he was offended. I'm sorry, but even if I can't manage everything, control became the most." Danielle was accused by a coordinator behind the scenes that she had progressively took control of planning partner outreach and even choosing shooting locations, a soft power which even Mike Wolfe turned to when Frank was removed from. Danielle's position increased even more, causing manufacturing workers to wonder. A leaked 2023 internal. Danielle had access to the complete partner database, according to the paper. Facts about antique archaeology auctions and inventory lists. She was the only. Mike is the only person permitted to sign business contracts. When combined with her intimate relationship with Mike, generated widespread conspiracy suspicions, which escalated when the FBI declared that it was looking into Frank Fritz's death. What had started with internal strife worries quickly turned into a criminal investigation. U.S. media outlets started going over every detail of Danielle's why she didn't show up for shoots or her private business trips with Mike. Puerto Rico, where she promptly bought real estate worth over $400,000, although Danielle Colby was cast following the receipt of a transfer fee from Mike's shell company, the show's middleman. Into the focus of suspicion. Television news programs stopped calling her in motivation, but as the most perilous female character in American reality, the public opinion was divided. Some saw her as a scapegoat, while others thought she was the darkest truths of the show. Immediately, a debate emerged. Was Danielle's fame the either as the consequence of a smart combination of individual talent or power and the eradication of competitors, and if the latter was a planned action or an unintentional decline in a harsh setting? Yet the solution is still uncertain. A storm had already been sparked by the winds of doubt. Danielle Colby once rejoiced as the American picker's creative spirit stood. Frank Fritz is at a turning point in his life, and his name is now associated with a federal. The last pieces of this gloomy scene are the investigation into his premature death. 3. Frank Fritz and the strange started to emerge. Death on September 30, 2024, word got out that Frank Fritz had died at the age of 60. Most well known on social media and morning news programs as a co-founder, and the death of Fritz, the American picker's on-screen face, was first ascribed to by Iowa health officials to treat cerebral infarction late issues following a stroke he had 2 years prior, but only a number of unsettling information surfaced weeks after a low-key family funeral. America was shocked to learn that Frank might not have passed away from natural causes. It all started when FBI internal federal sources claimed that agents unexpectedly showed up at the hospital where Fritz had received treatment. Got anonymous suggestions for sporadic interventions in Frank's treatment. Among the accusations made during his last months were changes to his treatment regimen. Phone conversations between close associates and inaccurate medicine dosages. Danielle Colby was one of them. Her records did not match those of the hospital. Then, in a tiny Davenport warehouse, investigators found a copy of Frank's private journal in an agonized scroll. He wrote, "Every time I wake up, someone is tampering with my life, and I know they want me gone." Danielle claims to be checking the dosage for her medications, but I don't trust her. No more. Those stressful entries turned into crucial evidence, launching a new investigation. Had someone planned Frank's death by taking advantage of his failing health? The case took a different direction with images from Frank's neighborhood's shaky security cameras on the evening he was. Mike Wolf was eventually identified as the driver of the black SUV that was discovered unconscious. Despite the blurry image, FBI facial recognition software was able to recover his home. Cell tower logs showed a 74% match to Danielle Colby seated in the passenger seat. Put her phone in the area between 8:30 and 10:15 p.m., the precise time frame when Frank stopped communicating with his neighbor, but the most damning evidence may have been the text exchanges. Obtained using a federal order from a telco backup server. In Mike is alone at the moment, and no one is planned to check on him until Danielle texts him. Mike responds, "It's handled, delete this, as the window closes tomorrow." Fred. The timestamp for the communication was 9:47 p.m. Arrived less than an hour before a neighbor found Frank in his house, unconscious. Investigators concentrated on potential financial motivations as the evidence grew. In the 12 months before his passing, Frank had filed a lawsuit against an antique store in Iowa. Mike Wolf of Archaeology for reducing his portion of the show's license income. That case was not yet resolved when 2 days following his death, Frank passed away in an even more strange manner. An offshore company called Vintage Solutions LLC sent $175,000. Mike into Danielle's bank account. Danielle Colby was immediately called by the FBI as, according to tabloid headlines, a key witness in their homicide investigation exclaimed, "Danielle from muse to murderous collaborator." Colby's demise was. She is aware of the reason, and even many of her previous admirers started to question why. Why has she not made a public remark, and why was she present at all? At a brief press conference, Danielle's lawyer Margaret Wilson emphasized the intersection of motive and evidence. The client is innocent. These accusations are based on out-of-context and fragmentary language. Data, however, in a November CBS survey of 25,500 Americans 2024, 27% thought Danielle was directly responsible for Frank's death, while 63% thought she a financial collaborator, and only 10% believed she was completely innocent. According to Financial Forensics Investigations, Danielle was in charge of signing documents for a minimum of 3 significant production agreements, including a $2.3 million contract for sublicensing soon after Frank left the show. Additionally, documents revealed that her personal expenditures increased significantly from mid-covering real estate collectibles in 2022 and early 2024 vehicles and costs associated with her personal side projects. At this stage, the case went beyond a reality TV controversy to represent America's declining rely on its preferred unscripted series. which Frank Fritz was long admired for being the truthful now, down-home picker was at the heart of an alleged murderous conspiracy, standing in Danielle Colby glared at that suspicion. His success as silent accomplice is now the key player under government inquiry and a name that causes millions of people to be shocked just hearing about. The landmark trial revealed details about the federal court in Des Moines, Iowa, formally convened on January 17, 2025. Danielle Colby's trial in what has been called the largest reality TV boom of the decade, early morning media outlets filled every seat in the courtroom. From the New York Times and CNN to YouTube channels that focus on, there were hundreds of fans of popular culture, including some who had previously been admired. Colby held banners outside the courthouse, and some people prayed for nothing. The trial, which lasted more than a day, featured the phrase, "she knew." The complete portrait of a prominent figure who was once hailed as genuinely eccentric, but prosecution contended that this eccentricity was a carefully fabricated mask concealing deliberate intent. In his introductory remarks, the United States federal prosecutor Bradley Harris, who has experience with high-profile media fraud cases, wasted no time in getting started. Although Danielle Colby did not commit murder, she did open the door for crime. To the evidence was gradually revealed, with each new finding delving further into Call's public persona. Began with 218 messages exchanged with Mike Wolfe, obtained from a telecom server, one of which was the chilling, "He's by himself now, but he also coordinates and monitors schedules, prescription drugs and updates regarding Frank's health." One message delivered out loud by the courtroom was quieted by the prosecution. "Should we call the doctor right now?" Or when Danielle messaged Mike, he replied, "Too late." The FBI, then the assigned financial analysis team, traced funds to report its results. Movements from Luxembourg's BICE accounts. They found 6 significant transfers to accounts under name of Daniel Call. One such move took place within 48 hours following Frank's. Prosecutors stressed that death was a business consulting expedited. Following a time of consultation, witnesses took the stand one by one, and a production. According to the assistant's testimony, they heard Danielle say to Mike in the logistics office, "If Frank returns," another crew member remarked, "once I saw her tear. Our entire plan collapsed." She placed papers from Frank's notepad inside her jacket and chuckled when questioned, saying, "Don't let 2 old men sabotage the photo." These minor things combined to create a suspicious trend. Margaret Wilson, Danielle's defense lawyer, responded angrily, claiming that the financial documents were speculative, the meanings were misinterpreted, and bias and self-interest motivated the witnesses. Another defense plan aimed to recast Danielle as a lady caught up in the plots of a Mike Wolfe, a more powerful man, was consulted by a psychologist to examine the Colby and Wolfe's codependent relationship. Emphasizes that Danielle is not a she is a crook who was manipulated by authority, yet the prosecution quickly countered with never-before-seen video evidence demonstrating a furious dispute between Danielle and Mike in a February 2022 workplace. While the sound was not very clear, Danielle was quite explicit when she said, "I can't clean up this mess if you were done with you, so even though this evidence isn't explosive, I'll go down." The last component in proving accomplice activity was its own. On day 19, the trial came to a head when Danielle testified in her own defense. She wore modest clothing, applied minimal makeup, and had red-rimmed eyes. Colby talked about her experiences throughout the past 3 years. Of my affection for Frank was like that of a brother, yet his relationship with Mike became a conflict that ensnared me in the midst of it, and she admitted to sending thoughtless messages and acknowledged having suspicions. Was incorrect, but lacked the courage to step in when the, "Did you know Mike Wolfe planned to harm Frank Fritz?" Danielle asked the prosecution. Waited for 12 seconds before answering. "I wasn't sure why, but I felt I did nothing while something horrible was about to happen," and the courtroom fell silent. Not of feeling, but of comprehension. Danielle Colby had not pulled the gun, but even though she had the opportunity to stop the tragedy, she was unable to even judge. Diana Moore's sky was abnormally cloudy on the day of sentencing. Renowned for overseeing well-known cases including the Julian Harper trial in 2017, given the conclusion with unwavering clarity that Miss Colby did not kill Frank Fritz, but her deeds, concessions, And quiet directly led to a sequence of incidents that resulted in a fatality. Danielle Colby is sentenced by the court to 18. Danielle was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Fell to the table. Her face, which millions of viewers had seen before, was now weeping. No one consoled them, no one stood to cheer, only a deep. The room seemed empty, as if a favorite TV show had come to an end on after an episode that nobody wanted to see. Reporters started to leave. The several people in the courtroom lifted their phones to refresh the headline, "Former American." Outside the courthouse gates, the Pickers star was given an 18-year term. The throng just gazed at the iron doors where an icon was located. They no longer carried banners. Had gone in and would never come out of it unaltered. 5. Danielle's demise. The March 3, 2025, saw the issuance of an 18-year prison sentence, which was not only the